The other part of the EPTU that is being tested this week is, I believe, FPS improvements of some sort. Now, we don't know what exactly that's going to mean. We just know FPS means first-person shooting and improvements means getting better. So, we pulled up the last couple of times they've talked about this at CitizenCon, some of which I think is already in the game to some extent, but we're going to go over what they've been saying and make our own assumptions.
I'm Francesco Roccucci, as you said, and I'm the director in CIG. It's a great pleasure to be here with all of you guys. It's fantastic. So what we're going to do today is to explore how all the work we've done for Squadron 42 is going to flow into the Star Citizen experience. So we wanted to make the AI presentation about how you guys are going to experience the tech and the features we have been working on. So from the player perspective, you've seen how many new opportunities you have. And now it's interesting to see how the NPC are going to react to that. So the goal of Star Citizen is to build a breathing and living environment where your actions matters, and the NPC you will find in the universe needs to have the same opportunities and same limitations that you have. So when we play a game, we want you to spend the time that feels memorable, that feels special, right? Something you can remember and talk about. So we want you to give you a challenge to overcome, but also a challenge that is fun and doesn't feel repetitive and boring. So when we look at FPS encounter, we want to build variety. We want to give the designers, like Zach, the ability to craft combat scenarios, not just to put NPC in the level. And we need to make sure that he can tweak something such that he can experience the unique play style and the play space that you have. So Star Citizen can benefit from tons of unique environments. So for those environments, we want you to have different type of fun. So what we look at today is some of the tools that they have to achieve this goal and bring the AI to the next level. So the first tool we're going to look at today is the NPC trait system. So we spoke about this in the past, and we have now available for designers the initial set of traits they can use to influence their behaviors. So
okay, real quick, I want to check something. So I feel like some of this did get put in. Did they include any of this in 323? AI. No, I guess not. I thought that they had started to have some archetypes of the NPCs because it does feel like some of them act different from each other, but maybe that's more basic stuff than what they're talking about here. Because they do get pretty deep into how these AI will play differently if you listen. Keep listening. Sorry, it's my fault. You could keep listening if I wasn't yapping.
Those are some of the ones that are available to the designers. Today we're going to focus on the combat traits, because we have traits that also apply to the peaceful situation and the social environment, but those are the ones that influence NPCs during a combat scenario. And traits, you can imagine them as characteristics NPCs have or don't have. So through the usage, we can make sure the combat feels different from one encounter to another. Traits in tech-wise, are just traits and tags that we can apply to character instance, character classes, but code can also apply them automatically based on specific rules. For example, if you see somebody with a rocket launcher, those will apply, an example, the sentry trait automatically, because those weapons are weapons that work well at range, so you want them to not push forwards to you. So they allow to block, or actually, they allow or they block specific section of the behaviors to run, but they also influence the likelihood of some logic to happen, or they modify the outcome of specific actions. So let's imagine we want to model a pirate faction, something that you can actually experience in the Pyro playground. So we want them to feel aggressive, but also not very trained. They are not very military. So how do we do it with the traits? We can start adding to this faction either the aggressive or reckless trait. Those are traits that increase the risky behaviors. So for example, fighting more in open space, or expose themselves longer when they are in cover.
Or not washing your hands.
We can then assign to some of those pirates the ignore fire obstruction trait. As you've seen, for example, in Chris Rain presentation during the CTG demo, we have now destructible environment. So what the NPC will try to do is to keep shooting at the position the enemy has been hiding into, So you will see destroying the environment, but you will also see them being less careful and managing their ammos. For others, we could use the undisciplined trigger finger trait. So this trait is, for example, meant to convey the inability to control their weapon when they are emotionally engaged in the fight. And what it will cause is them to trigger the weapon much longer compared, or also just a bit longer compared to what the behavior is asking. So being bad at preserving their ammo means they will also run out of bullets much quicker. So this offers interesting opportunities for players because they can now shoot at them while they reload or while they scavenge the environment. So traits are building blocks we can use to define how character, faction, or encounter should feel. And designer can now create a wide variety of encounters for you guys to enjoy the game.
Yeah, I hate the idea of an infinite ammo AI, but I guess like it could make sense if you were, say, if there was like a set mission where you have to go down a corridor with snipers or something, and the snipers should always be able to shoot people. That just reminds me of Halo 2 Jackals, to be honest. We talked about the shooter token system before, and that's like a group of people can get a certain amount of tokens, and if they run out, then they stop shooting kind of thing. So I'm interested in seeing how this does affect our combat encounters right now, because they're pretty straightforward for the most part. You're just kind of, everybody just walks around and shoots at you. Nobody really like bum rushes you just yet.
So I want to paint a picture for you guys. So this is the bunker mission in Pyro, right? And we have a set of enemies that are defending the environment. So this is imagine an infiltrate and destroy mission. Those guys are there defending the bunker. You need to take it over. You need to basically kill them all. You are now fighting against enemies that they defend the environment. So before we go to the next slide, imagine the same environment, very similar enemies, but different traits, same behavior. So now you are defending an environment, and they are aggressive towards the environment. They want to take it. So what you will see here is that created a mix of enemies, some equipped with, for example, shotgun and aggressive traits. Now they will push towards you. They will force you to take actions and to react to them. They reload.
That guy's gonna get shot so fast.
Some will cover up. Obviously.
What they should be doing here is showing us what it looks like when the AI aren't using their traits, and then when they are, I think that would give a little bit better representation of this.
This is with God mode on, so Zach was not dying. So this is possible to set up with a tick of a box. But this is not just enemies, because in Star Citizen, we want you to hire your own crew members. And those crew members, those characters, will have different personalities, different traits, different training level that they can build up. But when you look at their traits, we want you to see their strengths and their weaknesses so that you can pick the one that either match your playstyle or compensate your playstyle. So one good thing that we want to show you today is the medic. So there are some NPCs that can carry, obviously, med pants, but not everybody is able to use it well or wants to use it in a specific encounter. So we want to tweak this, and we have the medic trait. Here we combine a lot of the tech that we have spoken in the past, usable tech, behavior tech. And as Jens showed you, players now can just not only kill enemies, because before our NPCs would just die, but now you can take them down, you can restrain them. So the hyperception is to carry all this information about the different actor states. So he needs to know if he's down, but if he's still alive, or if it's just, somebody that you need to wake up. So a medic in the regular combat flow can, when it's safe to do so, and at the right time, attempt to heal his mate that can be helped. So now you can imagine guard patrolling the environment, you take down a character, the guard finds this body on the ground. He doesn't know if he's alive or not. So he can go there, he can check it, check the pulse, see the state, and if he can be helped, he can basically execute the right healing process. If he needs a med pen, he will use the med pen. If he needs to shake him to wake him up, he will shake him up. And if he needs to unrestrain him, he will unrestrain him. And your crew members can also do the same with you. So if you are down in critical condition, they can come and help you out. We'll see now an example of this where two factions are fighting. And you will see that at the right time when the guy retreats, this guy can go there and heal his mate.
He gets so hyped here.
And obviously, he needs to pick up a new weapon because he just dropped it. So as we mentioned before, and as you've seen here, NPC can run out of bullets, but can also lose their weapons. So what we have to do right now is that, first of all, we want NPCs to have a concrete ammo pool to use. We don't want infinite ammos anymore. So the ammo pool is actually constructed by the ammos the NPC carry in their weapons, the one that they carry, the one that might have, and all the magazines they carry. They don't have any more bullets out of that. So NPC must properly use those items to fight. And the longer the engagement, the more likely it is they will run out of bullets and they will have to scavenge the environment. How do they do that? It's through the NPC, the usable system, as you've seen with Ines as well, Ines' presentation. You see that anything the player can interact with, the NPCs actually can, the same exact way. So the dead bodies can be looted, same as dropped weapons. Ammo crates will have physically inside some weapons, magazines. They can provide you with items. And the NPC can understand where you can find ammos that are actually functioning with their own weapons. And they actually can decide. For example, if it's better to reach an ammo crate and gather some new ammos, or if that is too far or towards the enemy, they can decide to pick up another weapon. So you will see that also already in Pyro, you might see it. And once they decide to do so, obviously they don't have bullets, so they cannot fight you. What they can do, they can also switch to their sidearms. And the sidearms is less effective, obviously, compared to the primary weapon, but it is still better than nothing for them to protect themselves while they go around and they loot the environment.
I think in terms of crew, he's talking about just like members that you're fighting alongside, to like friendly NPCs, FPS NPCs.
So we'll see here an example where some NPC run out of bullets. Obviously, in this video, we give them a chance to go and loot as well. And this is a proper ammo crate that allows them to get back magazines. And another NPC arrives, and he will loot the dead body. This is the same dead body you might be able to loot, and you will not find ammos after that. But you will probably find it in the other one once you kill it. So, last but not least, another tool in the FPS arsenal is grenades. Grenades are a great tool. NPC can now fully react and use grenades in the environment. So grenades are a great tool, especially when an NPC needs to counter a player that is camping or a player that is hiding or say in a location that the NPC cannot reach. So grenades force the movement and keep the action going, but they're also very dangerous. You've seen in Ali's presentation and my presentation that a grenade can make electronics explode, ignite a fire, and then the fire can propagate in the environment. So NPCs need to properly understand the environment and not jump into the fire and get damaged. So how do we do that? Is we have a new full system to handle hazards. Basically, a hazard on the technical side can create a navigation volume modifier, and the navigation module modifier gets registered in navigation system, and our basically mesh can be modified, and it will carry semantic about if that is a danger, something better, and how much costly it is to go through.
We literally just talked about this in the monthly report that was released last week. They were talking about this in the AI section.
Because maybe you have a suit that allows you to go through the fire, so that is fine. You will not, the NPC can understand that. But if they can't, they will try to find positions that are safe for them to position themselves, but also paths that will avoid those dangerous areas. And now we'll see an example of that. This is a safe environment, still fighting, but safe, safer. And what will happen now? Fire ignites. and propagates. This is fully dynamic, so it's fully controlled by the fire system. The fire system modifies volumes in the navigation system, and we really know where we can and not pass at any given moment. So this is a subset of the things that we worked on and we wanted to show you today. Thanks very much for listening, and now back to Jens.
That is a lot of stuff that we have seen in the past with them working on. Here's a look at them doing the AI checking on downed state NPCs. This was back in 2022. We also had, let's see, like I showed just last week, we had that video clip of them doing basically what he just said, which is trying to avoid certain areas if they have more danger involved. Can't find that one right now. Here we are.
We will show how the characters can navigate through the environment, with fire, with dynamic fire. And this, like, designers basically don't have to set up anything because players can turn, fire everywhere, or, NPCs could do it as well. Something can go wrong, right, and explode them.
Right.
And it could be more fire.
And so the idea here is that with the different archetypes for the AI, you can have an AI that's incredibly cautious, and they would carefully avoid all of the different hazards.
So yeah, there's, and like has been saying in chat, they do some of this stuff. So I do feel like some of this has been implemented. I'm not sure what of this. Maybe it's just the traits that will be being tested this week. Maybe it's more. I don't know. But we can also check out here that they have been talking about the nav mesh and how that's supposed to factor into the new planet tech that they're using. So let's take a look at this as well.
Lives. And then the day and night cycle. So in essence, the passage of time that so far didn't have really a lot of impact on the gameplay. So to allow life to respect this world and conform to the rules that this environment defines, well, we want to improve our tools and workflow, and we want to distance ourselves as much as possible from a designer-driven approach. This is because, first, it's labor-intensive. It can be prone to bugs, but also because the scale of the words that we've just seen are very hard to be, designer-driven in the markup. So we want to improve this workflow, and we will see how manual markup is also not usually the best option, because with these words that are heavily impacted by users and changes and customization, it's very hard to know in advance where interesting things are. So today I want to show you a couple of examples of what the IT team has been focusing on to make these systems supported and scale correctly to support these vastly dense dynamic worlds. So we'll look at perception in light and dark environments and dynamic cover generation. So attacking an outpost now must have a level of depth that goes beyond what we had. So layouts of the environment can change, vehicles may or may not be present, and PC can be anywhere. And if it's a bright day, well, we will be more visible, but our enemies will also be more visible. And if you choose to attack at nighttime, well, we'll attack in shadows. During darkness, it's going to be a bit harder to see our enemies, but we will also be harder to be spotted. And it will give us more opportunities to be stealthy and sneaky. How do we do that? So as you see, there is also a lot of different light conditions in this outpost. So in this scenario, we will start look at how perception is impacted by the day and night cycle. On the planetary surface, as we've seen in the outpost, natural and artificial lights are the two elements that will impact vision. And knowing that, you can use this to leverage your gameplay style to exploit basically all the environment. So what is perception? On the NPC level is the combination of data that we collect out of the senses. And vision is one of the senses and just tries to, in a way, simulates the human side ability. So designers can already tweak the perception in different ways. And one way is defining how quickly NPCs can understand what they're seeing.
I just got to say, can you imagine the testing of this specific part of this? Like, imagine going in the EPTU and needing to get actual feedback on how this works. So you basically just like storm a base, kill all the NPCs, see how they react, and then just sit outside, wait for it to get dark. Like 30 minutes go by. Okay, sun's down. Let's try this again. You do it again. There's one data set. I hope there is an easy way to test this for the players, but I'm thinking it's just going to be kind of like whatever you see, you get some feedback on, and trying to test exactly the same scenario in day and night is going to be difficult in the PTU.
Condition have a direct impact how quickly an NPC will fully understand, for example, if there is an hostile in front of them. And obviously, there is condition of light that designers can control, and some others, like the day-night cycle, that they can't.
You can go to the other side of the planet, but I mean, obviously, when you test something, you really want to try and get a one-for-one representation of what you're testing. Like the exact same scenario is the best way to test that stuff.
So in this video, we'll see two main elements. The graph on the top left and the two colorful cones. The graph on the left basically represents the current light level the NPC is in and the current multiplier this light level generates to speed up or slow down the NPC perception and understanding. The two cones instead represents the primary and secondary FOV. The red color means that if you stand in that location, it will result in NPC reacting the slowest to you, and the green color instead represents the quickest response. So during the night, NPC will have a hard time to understand and foresee and see things, but if they have flashlights on their helmets, they can turn it on, and this will impact their primary FOV, making still the peripheral vision a bit more uncertain. And as you see here, first of all, the NPC is patrolling with his domesticated friendly copion. This is because he wants to exploit the vision, the night vision capabilities
Pet
of the
doggy.
animal, and it's kind of our tier 0 pets. So
Actually
we'll
said
now
it.
look at the cover system. That is the next dynamic things that I want to show you. So when we introduced planetary navigation mesh the first time, our
I feel like the Copion did have its own field of view there. I could have sworn I remembered that being part of this demonstration.
So we will now look at the cover system. That is the next dynamic things that I want to show you. So when we introduced planetary navigation mesh the first time, our goal was really to create a systems that would support and process the environment in a very dynamic way. Our planets are just way too big to statically export them and process them, first of all. And then their regions only exist when somebody's there and the NPCs are there. So essentially, environment has its purpose only when life exists. Also, let's keep in mind that even if we could export dynamically and statically those planets, so processing dynamically all a static version of the planet, this would be, first of all, wasteful and on the memory side and time-consuming. And also because we have a lot of runtime modification of the terrain, this would require us to still reparse it at runtime, and pretty much that will be almost all the time. So to generate the cover data, we want to leverage the navigation mesh system. And what we do is, as you see here, the blue polygons are basically where NPCs can walk, and the green ones are what we call cover surfaces, that are our simple representation of the environment, what NPC uses to understand if they can hide behind something and if they can shoot from some positions. So up to now, we have an approach where designer would be a designer-driven approach. Designer can define in the locations where cover was interesting. They could mark it up, either the location itself or prefabs, and then with a special entity that would just sample dynamically the environment, but would still be designer-driven. This is obviously a good approach it's also a standard approach in gaming industry, but what about all those organic and inorganic elements that get scattered with a new system? Like if designers want to iterate on these ones, for example, and they want to change the physical data sets, those scattering tools will just change completely the layout. And what we want is that designers can do this change without being afraid of doing it because the gameplay was, predefined and controlled, and now they can just make something beautiful but also fun.
So in that case, this might not be something that they're looking to test with the EPTU this week because we don't have the new scattering tool or the new Planet Tech version unless they put that in the EPT. No, I'm kidding. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Besides that, yes, we did have a prefab approach where you can build stuff out of small building blocks. This is obviously a good approach because it's, in a way, you can build stuff out of smaller version, but this creates a lot of unnecessary data. Imagine a crate, and we can say that the crate can generate cover. Now we stack 100 crates, and what happens? That we have a lot of data to generate cover that we have to process, throw away. This would just waste CPU cycles for nothing. This is why, until now, you also couldn't find an NPC in a forest like this one and see them hiding behind a tree or a rock. So enabling the dynamic generation of covers on the planet allows us to exploit all the elements of the environment. Whenever navigation mesh generates, NPC can now have a chance to fight with you.
Okay, this is kind of hilarious. Watch this Ursa here, and tell me if it looks like it's driving or just kind of sliding across the ground slightly
Hiding
sideways.
behind available elements. Boulders, rock, walls, and are all useful elements right now. However, we don't have to limit ourselves to static geometries, but also vehicles can be used for cover. And as you can see, this is dynamically generating while the vehicle moves. So be careful where you park your Ursa, because now it can become a source of danger for you as well. Last but not least, these systems can be just used on all the different type of navigation mesh we have, so not on the planet, but also, for example, the interiors and everything you guys construct. Because obviously, you guys will build your own locations, but you don't really mark up stuff, or you don't want to decide that, because that's going to come automatically out of the system. So I want to show you So what I want to show you now is just like a little bit of insight of what goes behind the scene when we generate cover and navigation mesh. These are some of the steps that our system does. So we always start from the environment voxelization. What that means is we process the geometry, the physical representation of the geometries, that is a little bit simpler than usually the render mesh, and we construct it in a voxelized approach. This is also using different types of agent definition. Why so? Because obviously where a human can move is not the same as where a vehicle can move. So we can define different type of precisions and then speeding up the process where we have to, and be more precise where we cannot be to. And we can also create overrides based on different things. For example, if you crouch, you can enter into smaller locations than where you stand. This process is basically common between navigation mesh and cover. After that is generated, then we can evaluate the voxel in different ways. For example, defining where we can walk. So can we make the step with our foot over a specific voxel? Or is there something in front of that hole in the NAM mesh so that we can actually cover behind? And then we can basically decide where to generate cover surfaces. And after the cover surfaces are generated, we can process where the cover locations are. Cover locations are a good spot for NPC to be behind the cover. So what we see here is that with the introduction of Maelstrom last year, obviously we knew this would revolutionize how you guys are playing. And we did have to find a solution to handle all the destruction you get to. So
Whoa, that's loud.
That we had to find a solution, right? So this is why we approach the cover generation navigation mesh as it is, because there is just no way for us to predict anything that you're doing, and we want just Maelstrom to be another trigger for word evaluation.
Dude, this is gonna be so freaking crazy. Testing this is gonna be hilarious.
Dynamically generating and destroying anything just makes the word be reevaluated. So, as you see here, we can have also lots of rules. So you can see that a bit here. But when things break, first they invalidate, and then when they rest, for example, we can decide when is a good moment to regenerate, so that we also don't waste too much CPU cycles. The color that you see is mostly cover quality. So you see the light green is high cover, the dark green is low cover, and then we have the red that we introduced some time ago that is basically not really good cover, but if there is nothing better, well, it's better to be behind something than being in open space. So let's just recap. What we want to do is finding a plan and having a good plan to approach life in this vast universe. What we want is the life to be able to systemically evaluate all the dynamic environments that is generated. We want to improve our workflow, not only to support designers and being faster, but also support all your guys' creations. So we want the life to adapt, and this is all for making the game fun for you, so that everything comes together. So thank you all. This was phase 3, and now Let's welcome Ben Parry, that will introduce you guys to phase 4 of Genesis.
So he's kind of phrasing that as a part of Genesis, which is the planet tech. So there's like crossover here with the different features, and I'm not sure which part of this, if any parts of this, are going to be these AI improvements they're talking about for the EPTU this week. But I wanted to give you at least a look into what they have recently been talking about when it comes to AI advancements, how they fit into the systems that they're currently building, like Planet Tech, Maelstrom, and other things. I personally don't think Planet Tech or Maelstrom are going to be in the EPTU anytime immediately soon. We don't know what's planned for that last quarter of the year, but hopefully this gives you a little bit more insight into what their plans are, and I think helps to compare the current AI to what we've seen today, which I think has a little bit of crossover, but might not perform quite as well as what they're hoping to show here. Anyways, AI.